Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Multnomah County Commissioners. The health and safety of our community and staff members are at the forefront of our minds as we continue to navigate county business in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. In accordance with the declaration of emergency announced on March 11th and extended by the Board of County Commissioners on September 24th, today's meeting is being held virtually. To align with physical distancing guidelines, some rules that are associated with Board of County Commissioner meetings will be temporarily altered. Please remember to mute your mic when you are not speaking. And when you're presenting, make sure that your mic is unmuted and your camera is on. May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Jayapal moves, Commissioner Stegman seconds. Approval of the consent calendar. The board clerk will now take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafoury?
Aye. The consent calendar is approved.
Madam Chair, we did not receive any public testimony for today's meeting.
All right. We will move right into R1 then.
R1, TriMet MCSO Intergovernmental Agreement Amendment Extension.
So second.
Commissioner Stegman moves, Commissioner Vega Peterson seconds. Approval of R1. Sheriff Reese.
Good morning, Chair Kafoury and Commissioners. It's nice to see all of you. Again, I wish we could do this in person. It's so unusual doing the Zoom or WebEx meetings, but it's our new reality. Good morning, I'm Mike Reese, the Sheriff of Multnomah County. And this morning, the Sheriff's Office respectfully requests the Board of Commissioners to approve a retroactive date extension to amend our current contract between MCSO and TriMet. The contract expired on June 30th, 2020. This is a request for a 6-month extension of the contract to December 31st, 2020. All other aspects of the contract remain the same. Again, I want to be really clear. This is just to amend our current IGA with TriMet that allows us to be reimbursed for the personnel that we've had assigned there for over the last year. As you know, TriMet is in the process of evaluating their public safety model for transit, and they're engaged in listening sessions. They've created a committee that is discerning the future of law enforcement connected to transit. They anticipate that work to be done in the fall of 2020, and with a recommendation back to all of their partner agencies, the Tri-County Board of County Commissioners, as well as their transit riders. And this amendment for an extension allows for reimbursement of services, as I said, for the currently structured model, and is consistent with our agency partners under the existing IGA. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Reese. County Commissioners, let's ask questions, make comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Myron.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sheriff Reese. I appreciate your being here to present this today, and I do not have any questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jayapal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sheriff Reese. I just want to reiterate what you said about this being essentially a way to tide us over until TriMet figures out its new vision for public safety. That has been an important demand by community members, that TriMet safety be rethought. And, you know, I'm appreciative of the fact that they're doing the process to create that new vision, and that this just allows us to tide over until they have that new vision created. So, thank you.
Commissioner Vega Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to echo the remarks from Commissioner Jayapal. I was encouraged to see that TriMet is going through this process. It's something that I've, asked them to do, and I know a lot of community members are really interested to see in what the results of this process is and how we could use this as an opportunity to reimagine what it looks like. And just appreciate that, we're continuing the role that we have and are open to what's going to be coming next. Thank you.
And Commissioner Stegman.
I would just ditto everything that's been said. Thank you, Sheriff Reese.
Thank you.
Marina, did we receive any public testimony on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And now if you would please take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Myron,
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal,
Aye.
Commissioner Vega Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman,
Aye.
Chair Kafori.
Aye. The IGA is approved.
R2, Budget Modification MCSO 00221, East Multnomah County Gang Enforcement Team State Reductions.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vega Peterson moves, Commissioner Stegman seconds. Approval of R2. Welcome back, Sheriff Reese.
It's nice to see you all again. Again, this is Mike Reese. I'm the Sheriff of Multnomah County, and I appreciate your time to talk about a budget modification that we did a presentation on Tuesday. And as you're aware, on August 10th, during this year's second special session, the state rebalanced their budget, and it's retroactive to July 1st, 2020. This rebalance included a reduction to the East Metro Gang Enforcement Team, or MGET, from the Oregon Youth Authority grant. And on this task force, the Sheriff's Office works in partnership with the City of Gresham to provide services to East County, including our contract cities and the City of Gresham. The result from losing this funding is the elimination of all of our positions. It's $544,714, which funded 3 deputies within the law enforcement division that were assigned to this task force. Of course, this will erode our effectiveness in reducing gun and gang violence in East County, and will have an impact on public safety, a negative impact on public safety. But I understand the state's budget constraints and the impact from the pandemic that's really been catastrophic on all of our funding sources. So certainly we'll do everything we can to fill in those gaps, working with our partners at the Gresham Police Department. Gresham is continuing their portion of the task force using limited city general fund revenues until December 31st, and then they'll reevaluate at that point. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sheriff Reese. Did we receive any public testimony on this item, Marina?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, I will call on commissioners by district for questions and comments, and this time we'll start with Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. No questions. Thank you, Sheriff Reese. You answered all my questions on Tuesday.
Commissioner Vega Peterson?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Jayapal?
It's not unmuting. Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Myron?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate the briefing that we received on this issue.
Thank you. The board clerk will now take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Myron,
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal,
Aye.
Commissioner Vega Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman,
Aye.
Chair Kafori.
Aye. The Bud Mod is approved.
R3, Budget Modification DCHS 01021, reducing the ADVSD budget appropriation by $1,768,816 and 0.25 FTE.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Stegman moves, Commissioner Myron seconds. Approval of R3.
Good morning, Chair Kafuri. Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. I hope you hear me well. My name is Rob Kadiri. I'm with the Department of County Human Services. Finance Manager Senior. With me will be presenting Irma Jimenez, ADV as the Interim Director. This budget modification is requesting the approval due to the reduction in state appropriation for about $1.8 million and 0.25 FTE for case management assistant in Aging and Disability and Veteran Services Division. In general, we identified 4 reduction items. However, as we stated in our briefing, we will be doing a couple more bud mods to implement those budget actions. This particular budget action is implementing 2 of those actions: the reduction of the FTE and the Medicaid budget by $1.7 million. So I'll pass it to Irma Jimenez, and she will talk more about the programmatic side of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Irma.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Irma Jimenez. I am the Interim Division Director for Aging, Disability, and Veteran Services. I'm glad to see that my mic and my camera is working. So the Department of Accounting Human Services is requesting approval of budget modification that Rob described earlier. We had initially planned to lease additional space in Gresham because of the growth in Medicaid program staffing. We allocated Medicaid Title 19 funding for those new facility expenses in program offer 25027, which is our administration. And it is part of the fiscal year 21 adopted budget. Earlier this year, because of the move to telework and the expected long-term changes to how staff will do their work, we chose not to rent the new office space. And as a result, the state reduction of the $1.7 million will be offset against this expansion with no impact to service or personnel. In program offers 25023, which is our long-term services and supports, and 25029, our transition and diversion. That's the first piece. The other one, the program offer 25025, which is Aging, Disability, and Veteran Services, Veteran Services. It's funded with Oregon Department of Veteran Affairs funds, Oregon Lottery, and county general funds. Veteran services officers support veterans and military-connected families pursuing compensation and medical benefits from the Veterans Administration. Because of the reduced FTE, veterans and military-connected families may need to wait longer for return calls and appointment scheduling. In addition to the 0.25 reduction, FTE reduction, we will also be reducing a Pacific University contract for mental health evaluations by 10,060, which will delay determination of claims, processing, and/or negative claim decisions. Since this position that's being reduced is currently vacant, we may be able to use cost savings from the first few months to maintain the Pacific University contract. So, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will start with Commissioner Myron.
Thank you, Irma. And I want to express appreciation. Mohammed got back to me really quickly with my question that I raised at the board briefing on Tuesday, and just responded and cleared up the question that I had. So really appreciate the work, really appreciate just how quickly you got back to me, and no further questions.
Commissioner Jayapal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Irma. I appreciate a Tuesday briefing, and I have no other questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rob and Irma. Appreciate your flexibility and your creativity to make as minimal of an impact on our budget as possible.
Thank you to our presenters from DCHS this morning. I think what we're seeing here is a series of budget modifications that are budget cuts actually due to the state rebalancing their budget in light of COVID-19. And while things could have been a lot worse this year, we had a really extensive budget briefing on Tuesday, and the state used a lot of one-time only money to backfill what would have been even worse cuts. That, however, is not going to be they won't be able to do that next session, as they have even deeper cuts to make. So I really appreciate the creativity of our team as we work to ensure that our clients and our constituents are still going to receive services in light of what we know is going to be some deep budget cuts from the state next year. Marina, did we have any public testimony?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafoury?
Aye. The bud mod is approved.
Thank you.
Budget modification DCJ 00721, state rebalance, reducing DCJ's federal state fund appropriations by $859,504.
So
Commissioner Vega-Peterson moved and Commissioner Stegman second, or Commissioner Stegman moved and Commissioner Vega-Peterson second? Dina, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Kafoury and Commissioners. My name is Dina Corso. I'm the Juvenile Services Division Director for the Department of Community Justice. Department of Community Justice Juvenile Services Division experienced 2 reductions due to the state rebalance. The first is to the East Multnomah Gang Enforcement Team, or MGET, in the amount of $544,617. This funding is pass-through funding to the City of Gresham that provides staff in Gresham to work with the Sheriff's Office to strategize, coordinate, gather intelligence, and investigate crimes associated with street gangs. This amount represents a 50% reduction for the biennial budget, which has the effect of being a 100% cut since the reduction is being taken in the second year of the biennium. This reduction will have an impact on the gang investigative unit in Gresham, including the elimination of 3 officers and a sergeant. Remaining staff will cover active cases as capacity allows. The second reduction is to the Youth Gang Intervention Funding in the amount of $313,480, which represents an 8.5% reduction to this funding stream over the biennium. This funding allows Multnomah County to provide critical, community-based, family-focused, culturally responsive services to high-risk gang-impacted youth in our community. The funding passes through the Oregon Youth Authority to fill a unique need that Multnomah County has for serving justice-involved youth. Moreover, these programs have been shown to reduce recidivism, build youth and family strengths, and prevent the need for placement in detention or a youth correctional facility. It specifically funds our Community Healing Initiative, which is a collaboration between the county and 2 culturally specific community providers, Portland Opportunities Industrialization Center, or POIC, and Latino Network. It funds shelter care, which is an alternative for youth who would otherwise be placed in detention pending resolution of their court case. Shelter care services offer high-risk youth an opportunity to remain safely in the community under enhanced structure and supervision. Funds community monitoring program, which allows high-risk youth who would otherwise be in detention pre-adjudication to remain in the community under the supervision of Volunteers of America's youth monitors. And it funds FPE and our Resource Intervention Services to Empower, or RISE unit, which provides probation supervision to high-risk gang-impacted, justice-involved youth using strategies that are tailored to each youth's and family's issues, strengths, needs, culture, and environmental influences. At a time when racial justice and criminal justice transformation are being demanded by communities across the state and across the nation, the types of programs and services that this funding provides are needed more now than ever. In order to maintain these vital services, we are recommending reducing 3 vacant positions that are currently funded by County General Fund to fund the FTEs that are presently funded by gang intervention funding that would be eliminated due to the state rebalance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dina. All right, Commissioner Stegman, questions or comments?
No questions. All of them were answered from the briefing. Thank you.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dina. Same thing. My questions were answered during the briefing on Tuesday.
Commissioner Jayapal?
No questions. Thank you, Dina.
And Commissioner Myron?
No questions. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you. Marina, did we receive any public testimony in this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafoury?
Aye. The Bud Mod is approved.
Thank you.
R5, Budget Modification HD 00621, approval to appropriate $1,455,000 in revenue from the Department of Health and Human Services.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson moves, Commissioner Jayapal seconds approval of R5. And now for something completely different. Callers in. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Jessica Guernsey, Deputy Director for the Public Health Division. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I believe Sarah Fast is on the phone as well from the Public Health Division. Sarah, are you on?
I am.
Okay. Why don't you take it away?
Great. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We are here to present information on the budget modification for Community and Adolescent Health Program, which is under Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. This budget modification would increase to account for some additional funding that we applied for, which is a total of $1,455,000. The modification is due to grant funding that is awarded to our program. Sorry, we have some virtual school going on in the background. So the modification is due to grant funding that was awarded to our program from the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Population Affairs, 14 pregnancy prevention efforts that support comprehensive sexual education in Multnomah County school districts and in community-based organizations across the county. This funding allows for our program to continue its efforts in partnership with the following school districts: Centennial, David Douglas, Gresham Barlow, Park Rose, Portland Public, and Reynolds. And we are also able to add Multnomah Education School District as a part of this funding as well. We also will continue our work with the community-based organizations that we worked with previously: Boys and Girls Club, NEA, Latino Network, Planned Parenthood, and SEI, and are excited to announce Apano will also be joining us for these efforts. As a reminder, this funding does ensure young people across Multnomah County are able to receive comprehensive sexual health education that is aligned with the Oregon Department of Education state standards, is trauma-informed, medically accurate, LGBTQ inclusive, culturally responsive, and identity affirming. The bulk of the funding supports community and adolescent health staff time, but also provides a valuable financial resource to our community-based organization partners. We're excited to move this work forward as we had great success in supporting this work in the past 5 years under a different strand of funding. And we are excited that we were refunded to continue the work for an additional 3 years. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Jessica. Some good news. Welcome, good news.
Yes.
Did we receive any public testimony in this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. We will start with Commissioner Myron. Questions or comments?
Thank you. Is this, just to clarify, is this the funding that we sued to protect and make sure that we had for these?
It is. It is. This funding is, yeah, which is a little win as well. Yeah, so this funding was appropriated, and then they tried to reallocate it for different services that were not in line with the appropriation. And then our lawsuit allowed for ourselves to continue the funding, as well as a number of different organizations across the country to continue the funding. And then they released new funding, again, in line with its original intention.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to, I think that's something worth celebrating and pointing out as well. So This is wonderful news, and I just appreciate all the work and the programs that we now will be able to provide to those who need them most. Thank you.
Commissioner Jayapal.
Thank you. Yeah, just want to say this is such important work and really good news. Thank you so much for making sure that we have the funding to continue it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you so much, Sarah, for this. It is good news. It's nice to be receiving money, and I would just say, like, I just can't stress enough how important these dollars are, and the work is for teenagers and the work that's happening in the community. I know that a few years ago, for instance, David Douglas School District had some of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the entire county because of intentional work that the school board did there, and because of the partnership with Multnomah County, we've been able to make some gains on that, and that is really incredible when you think of the impact that has on so many lives. So this is good news. This is something that we can be really happy about. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is very welcome news. I was wondering, do we know yet how those services are going to be delivered? Line 2, Sarah.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out a little bit. So just to clarify, how they're going to be delivered during while they're in virtual settings?
Yes.
Yes, that's a great question. Yes. So we are currently working with all the school districts to make some accommodations or adjustments for how to deliver the curriculum in a virtual setting. So each district works with a different platform and have scheduled things differently. So we're working with them. A lot of David Douglas is one of our great partners who has moved the work forward on their own, but some districts do need some help with developing the content virtually. So that is our intent. We have also thought about, are there other ways to engage young people in this time, especially with parents and guardians at home? So for example, the middle school curriculum, actually the homework component of the middle school curriculum is family activities or activities to do with a parent, guardian, or trusted adult. So we might also encourage schools to lift up that component of the work in this time in the virtual setting. Our community-based organizations are still maintaining regular contact with their young people, whether in a virtual setting or over the phone, whatever works for them. And so they also will be delivering content in the same way by through virtual or in the phone, or by sending information home with young people and then meeting with them to discuss. We
Great.
do think, yep, okay.
Thank you. And did I already ask if we received public testimony in this item?
I don't recall, but we did not.
It never hurts to ask twice. All right, Marina, would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafori?
The budget modification is approved.
R6, budget modification, NOND 001. Request to appropriate $100,000 from contingency to the Reimagining Safety initiative.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson moves. Commissioner Jayapal seconds. Approval of R6. Good morning. I want to welcome and thank Lamar Wise for joining us this morning. Today's budget modification is the culmination of work that began earlier this summer and marks an important step in the quest for racial justice in Multnomah County and in the state of Oregon. In mid-June, a number of federal, state, and local elected officials were invited to participate in Reimagine Oregon, an effort composed of Black-led organizations, Black individual activists, and protest organizers dedicated to dismantling systemic racism in our state. These discussions have been frank and honest and have already led to policy changes, new laws being passed, and divestment from traditional criminal justice system programs to reinvestments in community-based programs. And while I want to acknowledge that these changes are leading us in the right direction, we know that there is a lot of work to be done, and we cannot take our foot off the gas. So today we're taking another step forward. In a few moments, Lamar will describe in more detail the work and vision of Reimagining Safety. But before I turn it over to him, I want to acknowledge the decades of tireless work by Oregon's Black community just to get us to this point. The struggle to dismantle systemic and individual racism should not and cannot rest solely on their shoulders. As an ally and partner in this effort, we will continue to support that transformative work. Today is an example of one of the roles that Multnomah County plays by supporting and promoting an effort that is led by the Black community and focused on what it means to create a true vision of safety specifically for the Black community. And with that, I will turn it over to Lamar. Thank you so much. I know you're super busy and I appreciate you coming this morning.
No, thank you, Chair Kapori, for the time and for the space. And thank you all for having me. And yeah, it's been a wild ride, but at the end of the day, I first want to say Black lives still matter, even though it's not trending anymore, even though it's not in the media as much. Black lives still matter because they have to, right? We have to matter. At the same time, I do want to hold space for the young man who was tragically killed in Texas. This just goes to show that we still have a lot of work to do nationwide. But I am encouraged by the steps that we're making here in Oregon and in Multnomah County. The votes that you all just took really are speaking to the attention that really this needs to be given. In terms of reimagining safety, this fund and project idea came out of the protests that started in Portland in late May and in June. Essentially, what a lot of the Black leaders started to experience was a lot of questions being asked around, well, if you do want to change how public safety works, like what would that look like? Like what would that be? And quite frankly, we started to do a lot of research, and one thing that we found was that we needed time and space and resources in order to fully roll out a full set of comprehensive changes that would need to be made, and a comprehensive set of changes that would both work well with the community, had a lot of community input and buy-in, as well as ensuring that it was Black-led through and through. With that being said, the Reimagine Safety Fund is currently a project that is Black-led, and that is also centered around a few different pillars, one of which is education, right? So a lot of what we know is that a lot of our community actually doesn't know the inner workings of public safety and the different levers that exist. And so we actually want to ensure that there is a education component to this, where we're just providing a baseline set of information as to what law enforcement is, what law enforcement does, the different models that exist elsewhere as well, and what it would look like to transition to some of those services. Another key part of this project is capacity building for Black-led orgs and Black organizations to participate, right? We know that those organizations are on the ground. We know that they've both worked to ensure that the Black community has been involved in these conversations, but also they have the best connections and have built trust. And so we want to continue to build that trust with whatever public safety models that we have. And that is the goal, right, is for everyone to feel safe, which is another reason why we started this fund. Another part of this is to do technical research and policy and legal expertise. Like I said earlier, we want to make sure everyone feels safe, and we also really want to get this right. Quite frankly, I think a lot of us feel a lot of pressure in order to make sure that we are moving forward with policies that do work and that do make sense. We've already started to do research, right? There's been a lot of talk around, what are ways that we could emulate what Eugene is doing with their Cahoots model. There's a lot of talk around just adding additional services for 911 dispatchers to reach out to. My day job is actually I work at AFSCME Council 75. We represent 911 dispatchers. One of the things that they constantly say is like, we really wish that there were additional services other than fire and 911. And it doesn't make sense all the time to send those two entities to a conflict, right? Not every call needs a person with a gun. Not every call needs a whole fire truck to go out and solve the issue. And so we want to explore the different services that can be available 24/7 to give more options to the dispatchers and to the folks who are experiencing harm, whether that be folks that are dealing with a mental health crisis or folks that are dealing with homelessness crises. We want to make sure that we are solving the problems and getting at the front end to the issues that eventually lead folks to contacting the police or other law enforcement agencies. So with that being said, we have had a various amount of conversations already. My first set of conversations was actually with Washington County Commission. They're also looking at investing about $100,000. Clackamas County is also looking at the same $100,000. Metro government has already committed $100,000. And because of the work that we've done so far in starting to even get these pending commitments or actual commitments, the Meyer Memorial Foundation has also committed $200,000 just to match what we've done already. And we've also gotten about $40,000 from private donations. And so the goal is to get about $2 million to $2.5 million in order to fund this project over the course of the next couple of years. And with that, we want to continue to not only coordinate statewide, but to ensure that we are also ensuring that all the entities that are starting Reimagine projects, like TriMet is starting it, PSU is starting a Reimagine project. We have all these Reimagine projects starting to come up, and there is a need to coordinate and to make sure that we're bouncing ideas off of each other, and that we're also connected with the state. And so far we have a consultant that is on board, and we're starting the process to hire someone full-time to actually lead this project and design the surveys, design the program, and to lead us into next year, where we hope that we can start to do this deep education as well as start to roll out recommendations. And so that's just a little bit of information. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. But again, thank you all so much for the discussion and for having me.
Thank you, Lamar. And we will go through commissioners if have questions or comments. And this time we're going to start with Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lamar. This is really exciting. I'm really pleased to see that you're going to be doing a deeper dive on assessing what the needs are in our community, and I appreciate you analyzing and looking at best practices like the Cahoots program. And I'm especially excited because I know in our community there is people don't have a common understanding of terms like defund the police, and it means different things to different people. So I'll be excited to see maybe some common terminology and definitions that people can all coalesce around. And then just the last comment is that I hope that our East County partners and jurisdictions will be involved in this effort. And I think it's a very worthwhile effort, and glad to hear that our other partners are stepping up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Vega Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lamar. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here today and for all the work that you've been doing. I'm so excited to support this today. So I'm glad that the county is investing in this work. I think we hear a lot about how this, that everything that's happened in 2020 has just underlined so many disparities and really highlighted things that existed before, but that are in sharper contrast now. And that's great to acknowledge it, but if we don't actually respond to it, if we don't actually change the way things are happening, then we're going to lose this opportunity. We're going to lose this moment. So, this is, this is incredibly important. And I will say, like the things you talk about, the work that's being done is really exciting. I know all of this whole board was on a conversation earlier this week that Commissioner Hardesty put together with Dr. Jonathan Jay to talk about, really public safety from a public health perspective, and really looking at community safety from a public health perspective. And a lot of things that, you mentioned around 911, for instance, were things that were brought up, like really looking at when do we need, what do we need to have the services for that don't look like police, that don't look like fire, right? And so, so this is just, there's a lot of work that we can be doing in a lot of different areas, and this is a great. This effort is amazing, and I'm really excited to see what's going to be happening over the next couple of years on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jayapal.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Lamar. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing. I'm so excited about this investment. I really am. Too often, I think we ask community to help us develop solutions, but we don't resource and we don't actually allow leadership. And that's what this investment is about. It's about community leadership, Black-led leadership, providing the resources. I really appreciate all of the components of the program that you described, the education of community, capacity building, another thing that funders often overlook, the research and policy development, and the coordination. That piece is critical. There's so much enthusiasm. It's wonderful that we have all of these different efforts to rethink public safety, and at some point they need to be pulled together. And I am really, really excited about this investment and excited to see the work that's going to come from it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myron.
Thank you. I will probably be echoing a number of things that have already been said, but for these, sometimes you say ditto, but these, I don't think you can say enough, just actually say these things over and over. And first of all, I want to express my appreciation for you, Lamar, and the work that you have done personally to take on this effort and how effective you've been. And I really am just inspired by that work. So just want to put that out there. And, as you've noted, as we all recognize at this point, we have a decentralized, sort of multifunctional, whether we call it a criminal legal system, a community justice system, a public safety system, all of these systems, and a recognition that the time is now and something urgently needs to be done. So how do we approach that? And as Commissioner Jayapal said, what you're describing and the effort that you're talking about here is I think central to all of these efforts. Yeah, people are very. It is great. People are engaged and seem to be excited to do the work, but that leads to all these different efforts in different places. So I really appreciate your recognizing that need for coordination. I really appreciate the approach that you take, which is just so clear, and delineating those pillars that are so important to establish, and looking at the best practices, and most importantly, and what is unique and the key thing in this moment in time is that this effort is Black led, and all of these different efforts, that is particularly essential as we are trying to dismantle systemic racism in all of our institutions, but particularly with regard to community safety right now. I also really just have to say how much I appreciate your representation. You're representing the 911 dispatchers and all of that work that they are doing. They are the ones who really see what we need in the community, because they get those calls. And so I just appreciate the work you're doing in that arena and that voice that you bring to the conversation. So thank you for all. I could not be more supportive here, and look forward to moving forward with this work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lamar, and thank you, commissioners. Marina, did we receive any public testimony on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafoury?
Aye. The budget modification is approved.
Awesome. Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Lamar.
R7 Budget Modification DCJ 00821 adds a new 1.00 FTE victim advocate to the DCJ Victim Services Unit.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vega Peterson moves. Commissioner Jayapal seconds. Approval of R7. Do we have someone from the DCJ Victim Services Unit? Oh, there you are. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh.
There we go. Sorry about that. Good morning, Chair Kafoury and commissioners. My name's Ray.
Good morning.
It's my first time doing a budget modification, so I got so excited I didn't unmute myself. I manage the Victim Services Unit with the Department of Community Justice, and this budget modification seeks to reallocate funds from a current contract that we hold with LifeWorks Northwest, and it's due to end at the end of this calendar year. The contract provides intensive outpatient mental health and substance use treatment services to survivors of trafficking age 18 and older, and it supplements a contract that the city holds and will continue to fund. And the reallocation of the funds would allow us to add an additional victim advocate to our victim services unit. Currently, we have 2 victim advocate positions within our unit. One of those advocates supports survivors of domestic violence whose abusers are on supervision within our domestic violence unit in the adult services division. And then our second advocate supports all of other victims and survivors connected to the Department of Community Justice. So that's both the adult and juvenile side, and that's an additional 12 units. So with the addition of this advocate, we'll be able to provide additional advocacy services approximately 132 times per month, and we'll be able to serve an additional 242 unduplicated survivors annually. This, of course, includes survivors of sex trafficking and domestic violence. In contrast, over the past 7 months, the LifeWorks contract has served an average of 20 survivors per month and 32 unduplicated survivors total. So it's important to also understand that the current combined funding for the LifeWorks, so the city funding and the county funding together, is just over $300,000 annually, where the funding that we contribute is about $85,000. So what we'll be able to serve is a really vast difference, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have questions and comments, I am sure, and we will start with Commissioner Myron.
Hi, thank you. No questions needed. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Commissioner Jayapal?
It's good to see you, Rhea. This is such important work. Thank you for, you've had to be creative and really analytical about how we best use that funding. And so thank you for doing that work.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rhea. I think, figuring out how we can be most effective with our dollars and making sure that we're providing the services that especially these critical services that the community needs is really important work. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness that went in here and figuring out how we can, better serve our community with this money.
Commissioner Stegman?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rhea. This is great to hear that you've been so creative so that you could actually provide more services for more folks. So thank you.
Thank you, Rhea. And I'm going to take this opportunity to acknowledge that you win the background award today. Your background with the color glass is so beautiful. So not only are you bringing us good news, but you have something beautiful for us to look at. So thank you. Marina, did we receive any public testimony on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafori?
Aye. The budget modification is approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The board may act on an item that is not on the agenda notice if at least 3 commissioners vote in favor of a motion to immediately consider the matter. For the matter to be adopted, all commissioners present must vote in favor of the matter. May I have a motion to consider an item under unanimous consent?
So moved.
Second.
Oh.
Commissioner Myron moves. Commissioner Vega-Peterson seconds. Consideration of a unanimous consent item. Marina, would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafori?
Aye. The consideration of the matter is approved. And now, what is the matter?
UC1, Proclamation recognizing October 12th, 2020 as Indigenous Peoples Day in Multnomah County.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vega-Peterson moves. Commissioner Myron seconds. Approval of R1. Even though they have only recently begun to capture national attention, movements for racial and social justice led by marginalized communities have pushed our country toward progress. And for years, Multnomah County has supported and participated in these movements. Today's Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation is a small yet meaningful step to change the future by honoring the past, acknowledging the present, and centering a community that has stood resilient and steadfast in the face of genocide and systemic racism. By celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, we are redefining a day formerly set aside to celebrate subjugation, colonialism, and attempted genocide. And instead, we choose to use this day to celebrate the strengths, wisdom, and beauty of our Indigenous communities. We find ourselves now in the midst of a pandemic, racial unrest, violence, and political upheaval. These things are not new to the Native community, and many of these crimes continue to disproportionately affect Native people. Yet Indigenous communities have endured and thrived. So today, we're going to take some time to pause. We're going to center that strength and beauty and continue to partner with our Indigenous leaders, one of whom we have with us today to share a few words. William, you always make time for your community, and for the last few years, you have made time to be present in our boardroom for this proclamation. So thank you so much for coming to show up for this event, although today it's virtually. I hope that next year we will be back in the boardroom to celebrate this proclamation together in person, and I hope that William will also be present on that day too. And I would like to now invite my friend Will to say a few words. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. For the record, my name is William Miller. I'm Blackfeet and Cherokee, and I have the honor of serving as the Native American Youth and Family Center's Community Advocacy Manager. As you were mentioning, Chair, it was taught in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. His voyage westward might have been true. However, there are entire parts of the story which are omitted in order to paint a beautiful picture of Columbus's contact with the Indigenous peoples, our people. After European contact, what followed for the Indigenous people of the Portland area was a series of territorial and federal policy decisions engineered to eliminate and later assimilate Native people. The 18th and early 19th centuries brought disease that decimated populations, often killing 9 out of 10 people. The boarding school era policies, which lasted from the mid-1800s through the 1960s, marked the beginning of a long campaign intended to kill our people. Kill the Indian and save the man summarized the philosophy that underlay most government policies of the era. Federal relocation policy, which began in the 1950s, forced over a third of Native populations to relocate to 7 major cities, Portland being one of them. By acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day, the county is allowing our people to reclaim identity stolen from us. While doing so, you are assisting us in making our often invisible populations visible again. Speaking of making our population visible again, I'd be remiss not to mention those tuning in, you need to complete your census by October 31st. You can do so by visiting www.2020census.gov. Lastly, I ask that we all take a moment to reflect on our own paths, which have led us to where we are today, and pay respect and tribute to the lands in which we're virtually standing on today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we so appreciate the census shout out. There's still time, folks, still time to fill out your census. All right, as it's a proclamation, there's no public testimony, but I'm going to call on commissioners by district for comments and questions, and we'll start with Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. William, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here today. This is so important that we honor Indigenous Peoples Day. And I think back about what I was taught in school, which is not the truth and was completely inaccurate. And I don't know what they're teaching in schools today, but I'm hoping that it is more accurate than what I was taught. So those of you who have children in school, you can report back to me. And I appreciate the call out for the census. There's been a lot of back and forth, and I just want to reiterate that data is safe. It cannot be shared with other departments. And yes, we do have a little bit of extra time. So please complete your census today. Thank you for being here, William.
Commissioner Baker-Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, William, for being here today. It's wonderful to have this opportunity. Chair, I want to thank you and Anna and your staff for making sure that we were able to get this done today. I will say, as a mom of a 4th grader, it was interesting when we were hearing what they were learning about with their social studies this year, that the way that it was phrased was really about, Europeans coming to America and the impacts it had on the Indigenous people who were here, which was something when I was growing up was never, considered, even explicitly, called out. And so I do think we are making progress. And I think that recognition of Indigenous Peoples Days, whether it's here in North America or in South America, to really recognize the impact that colonialism has had on these countries and to really honor the lives of the thousands and thousands of people who were here before Columbus ever, was thought of, is a really important thing to do, as well as the culture that continues to this day. So really glad that we have this opportunity. Thank you.
Commissioner Jayapal.
William, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. This is one of my favorite proclamations. I think these are annual themes and they're perpetual themes, which are resilience and visibility. And you've talked about them when you've been in front of us before. They continue to be so crucial. And that resilience piece, you've mentioned the determined effort to colonize and it reminds me of an exhibit I went to at Portland Art Museum. It was Edward Curtis and photography, and the whole point of that project was the idea that at some point Native peoples would no longer be here, and therefore they had to record their lives. And it's it's both shocking and shocking to remember that that was the idea and that was the project, and on the flip side, so important to celebrate that it was completely erroneous, and Native peoples have thrived and persisted really being with that, and I'm so honored to support this proclamation.
And Commissioner Myron. You're on mute.
Hi. I want to thank William, first of all, so much for being here. It is always great to see you. I wish it was in person, as we say so often these days, but it is great to have you here in spirit. And, this particular day, this proclamation, it is so meaningful, and that both honoring of the past, which we should of course not be celebrating, but celebrating the strength and resilience and beauty and what we have now, and what we are able to just bring forward as we are here today and considering this. I just wanted to respond, as Commissioner Vega-Peterson asked, as Commissioner Stegman mentioned. Sorry, I need to drink my coffee this morning. But as Commissioner Stegman had said, when we were young, we learned about the really tragic, we learned about the tragic history in a way that glorified it, that Columbus sailed, discovered this beautiful new land, and now here we are. I am pleased to say just yesterday, my younger child received their materials for school and their history books. And I actually just pulled it out because they were so excited that this new history book was reflective of kind of the more of the reality of the world. And just one sentence here says, says Columbus's treatment of the Native Americans set a tragic precedent for the centuries to come, and goes into some detail about the decimation and disease and all the subjugation and what really happened when to the indigenous people when Columbus landed and thereafter. So I think there is hope. I think our books are moving forward and history is being taught differently in our classrooms. And I just appreciate this opportunity to reflect and celebrate today with you. So thank you again for bringing the proclamation forward.
Thanks again. And Will, would you mind reading the proclamation before we have our vote?
I'd be delighted. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, everyone. Proclaiming October 12th, 2020 as Indigenous Peoples Day in Multnomah County, Oregon, the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners finds the American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Indigenous heritage of the United States extends since time immemorial and is a vital influence in our country's prosperity. The United States rests on ceded territory of the indigenous tribal nations of this region and their homelands and villages, and we acknowledge the loss of life when European explorers came to this country. Our name, Multnomah, is derived from an indigenous word that we conduct daily business on indigenous soil. We recognize that we are guests and stewards of this land. We value the many contributions made to our community by tribes and indigenous peoples, their knowledge, labor, environmental advocacy, science, philosophy, arts, and the deep cultural contribution that has substantially shaped the character of our region. that Indigenous Peoples Day shall be an opportunity to celebrate the thriving traditions and deeply rooted values of the Indigenous peoples who reside in Multnomah County and their ancestors before them. By honoring and celebrating our region's First Peoples, we are reclaiming a piece of history and choosing to no longer observe a time of genocide. Today, Multnomah County recognizes more than 70,000 American Indian Alaska Natives living in our region and honors the important role that tribal leaders play in sustaining our culture, promoting community health, and making positive impacts every day in the lives of the people of Multnomah County. The Multnomah County Board of Commissioners proclaims October 12th as Indigenous Peoples Day in Multnomah County, Oregon, to honor and celebrate the many contributions made by the Indigenous peoples throughout our vibrant community. We encourage other businesses, organizations, public institutions, and community members to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day and to take time to learn and teach others around the history and cultural significance of our country and Indigenous community.
All right, Marina, would you please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Myron?
Aye.
Commissioner Jayapal?
Aye.
Commissioner Vega Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Stegman?
Aye.
Chair Kafori?
Aye. The proclamation is adopted. Now, that concludes our board agenda, and we have time for board comments on non-agenda items. We will start with Commissioner Myron.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jayapal?
Yes, I would just like to mention some good elections-related news, which is that we have 2 new locations for ballot boxes in North Portland for this election. The Goodwill box on North Lombard was moved to Green on North Lombard, and there's going to be a new box at McCoy Park. I really want to thank our crack elections team, especially Director Tim Scott, for getting the funding for that box and for determining the best siting for it. It's going to be accessible to walk up for neighborhood users. They're going to be ready to go by the 14th. So please get out there and vote early.
Thank you. Congratulations to North Portland boxes. Commissioner Vega Peterson.
Thank you, Chair. My only thing was actually elections related as well. That's great news about additional access points and ballot boxes. But I was going to just remind folks that the last day to register to vote is Tuesday, October 13th. We have some of the best voter access with automatic voter registration. But if you've moved, if you've changed residence, you do need to get that taken care of. So just a reminder for everyone that update or register to vote by next Tuesday.
Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to remind folks that there is a Latino Heritage Car Parade in Wood Village. It's going to be tomorrow, or actually, I'm sorry, Saturday, October 10th at 5 o'clock. And it's going to start at Reynolds Middle School and it will end at the Wood Village Baptist Church. This was originally scheduled a couple of weeks ago, but because of all the smoke, it had to be rescheduled to this Saturday. So if you want something fun to do that is COVID safe, come out to our car parade.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's regular board meeting. We have no further business, but we will see you next Tuesday at our board briefing. And until then, stay safe, wear your mask.